My friends, let's be honest, when the mainstream media is saying that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is not going well, it's actually a total disaster. Here from CNN, Ukraine's counteroffensive hasn't met expectations. Here's why progress has been slow.
You are coping and seething.
And check out what they wrote. Milley urged observers to remain patient, saying he expects the counteroffensive to last as long as 10 weeks. Milley! We're halfway through!
Tough time never lasts. Only tough people last.
Perhaps we can read something better on Newsweek. Russia loses 31,000 soldiers in under 2 months amid counteroffensive. And the Russians are the ones defending in their top tier entrenchments. How about we just take a look at the map, the facts. That was the situation 1 month ago on the 5th of June before the offensive. Alright, analyze everything. And here's the situation now, 1 month later. I think you can come up with your own conclusions. Canadian journalist Neil Howard went to Ukraine and this is what he observed. Ukraine's offensive has been tough going. A month into the campaign, only a handful of villages have been liberated. Helicopters in particular are a challenge, but on the southern front line, spirits are high. By helicopters, he means the Russian Ka-52 and Mi-28N constantly buzzing over Ukrainian formations, which once again is a sign of Ukraine's lack of air defense. Along the Zaporozhye front, Ukraine is attacking along 3 main sectors. On the west side near the villages of Zharebyanki and Patikhetki, the Ukrainians got a 3-kilometer gain and 2 villages. At this moment, the Ukrainian attacks are breaking their teeth along this set of fortifications north of Zharebyanki. And these are just outposts, not even the main line of defense. It was reported that ambushed Russian Kornet anti-tank missiles are causing a great deal of damage on Ukrainian vehicles going back and forth between the front line and the rear. Then we have the infamous Mala Tokmachka and Robotyne axis with the Bradley/Leopard 2 parking lot that went viral, plus 3 kilometers there as well. And they're just about to reach the first Russian line of defense centered on Robotyne. Just the tip though. Just the tip. And lastly, we have the Vremyevsky salient, where Ukraine has had the most success as of now with a 6-kilometer push. But the main question is, at what cost? There are many videos I can show you, but let's focus on one of the latest ones. In total, 6 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and an IMR-2 engineering vehicle were abandoned. Oryx reported 27 M2A2 Bradley ODS SA destroyed or damaged. And like the journalist from Forbes, David Axe said, equally good chance there are M2 losses that no outside observer have documented. And what about manpower losses? Russian reports talk about 13 to 16,000 Ukrainian casualties, KIA or wounded, in the past 30 days of operations. In preparation for this offensive, Ukraine has mobilized left and right across the country. And there are also growing reports of foreign recruits from Latin America within the ranks of the Ukrainian army, mainly Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, and Argentina, which is in itself an indication of the overall situation. At this moment, it seems Ukraine is preparing a major offensive in the Kakhovka Reservoir sector, with the main armored fist assembled near Lobkove. We're talking about part of the NATO-trained 117th and 118th Mechanized Brigades, plus 1 tank battalion of the 116th Mechanized Brigade. And let me tell you, there will be a lot of fisting in this sector. Meanwhile, the Kakhovka Reservoir has almost dried out and turned into some mushy desert, which could theoretically be crossed by Ukrainian forces. Oh, sorry CNN, I cut you off. So why was progress so slow? A Ukrainian soldier drafted from a police unit called Yevhen told the New York Times, "They dug in, they mined, they're ready. It is difficult, but there's no other option." And here, the BBC. The lethal minefields holding up Kyiv's counter-offensive. The soldiers expressed frustration about a lack of mine-clearing equipment and a shortage of sappers, 4 of whom had been injured in recent weeks. That's the thing, like you can see in this video, hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers are going through NATO basic training in the UK. And let me be clear, that's great. But they won't ever be able to apply these fancy tactical stunts if they can't even get through minefield. However, everyone be reassured. Because the Washington Post tells us, don't second guess the Ukrainian counteroffensive. It's just starting.
Right.
Now in the article they admit the following. The Ukrainian task today is considerably more difficult than it was then, because in the 7 months since, the Kremlin has mobilized many more men and built many more fortifications and minefields. The Ukrainians are now advancing through thick minefields across flat, open ground. If only someone had talked about all of this a long time ago. And what did the Ukrainians do during these 7 months? They sent all their best troops to be mowed down in Bakhmut. And here from French newspaper Le Monde. At the end of the day, Russians are learning how to wage war, said Corporal K of the 116th Mechanized Brigade. Because of all this, the Ukrainians changed tactics. Instead of large armored assaults, they have no other choice but to resort to small infantry infiltrations. Reports mention assaults by platoon-sized units, so roughly 30 to 40 men. Even this can become problematic. So on the west side of the front line near Piatyhatki, the 128th Mountain Brigade did the bulk of the attacks. This time only with infantry. On the 4th of July at 8 a.m., an assault group of 30 men encountered mines and artillery fire, like what they're doing against this Ukrainian squad in this trench. And then artillery tries to intervene as quickly as possible before the enemy infantry relocates. At 8:30, the second wave, another group of 20, they pushed 1 kilometer from Lobkove. They were detected by artillery and only 6 made it to Piatyhatki. At 9 a.m., the third assault group, 50 soldiers, they advanced from the east for flanking maneuver and once again were stopped by various Russian firepower. That's an entire company gone in one morning! Actually, within an hour! At this rate, by the end of the summer, the 128th Mountain Brigade will be spent. And we have to take into account that those are only the casualties during the actual assault, without taking into consideration Russian bombardments of areas of concentration or the constant stream of small Ukrainian DRGs. It's pretty sadistic, but it happens quite a lot that one vehicle will come in to pick up some wounded soldiers and they get hit on the way back. Now the reality is that most Ukrainian assault battalions are supported by territorial defense units. Let me run you through a scenario. Assault squads secure an enemy position. Then they're immediately rotated out and replaced by Mobics or conscripts from terror battalions. Here you can see an example of such rotation. I counted 24 Ukrainian soldiers leaving the forest belt they had settled in and replaced by 2 squads coming in with bags full of supplies and ammunition. Sadly, sometimes the rotation doesn't go as smoothly. Here you can see a BMP picking up 7 Ukrainian soldiers before getting knocked out by a mine. While the assault squads are refitting at the rear, territorial defense units will take the brunt of Russian artillery. And it's pretty sadistic too on the Ukrainian side. These guys have 3 days to 2 weeks of training at most. There's no way they can storm enemy positions. Let's be honest, for the Ukraine command, these Mobics can't even shoot their guns. And they don't really know what they're getting into, so they'll just sit in trenches in order to occupy the position, while new assault squads push on forward to continue the offensive. As you can imagine, such brute force tactics also increase tensions within the ranks of the Ukrainian army. Here you can see a group of soldiers belonging to the 33rd Mechanized Brigade refusing to perform combat missions as they're arguing with their commander. And what's frustrating for the Ukrainians is that the Russian forces rarely stand their ground and fight to the death for these outposts. More often than not, they simply run away before contact. The Russians are also very sneaky because the defending unit retreats and spreads out in 4 different directions and then they vanish. After that, Russian artillery and airstrikes pound Ukrainian assault squads and deal as much damage as possible from afar. Then the Russian army counterattacks with fresh troops, plus the units that previously retreated, in order to form an augmented attack force. Together they storm the shell-shocked Ukrainians. As of now, Ukraine did not find a solution to this problem. That's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of my analysis. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to support my work, make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal. The links are in the description below.